Welcome to Living the Smarter Science of Slim, where we provide a scientifically proven lifestyle for long-term health and fat loss by eating more and exercising less, but smarter.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that.
Hey everyone, Jonathan Bailor coming at you with another bonus Smarter Science of Slim podcast. And really looking forward to today's show. We have with us a gourmand of sorts, as well as the co-founder of Paleo FX and the proprietor of ancestralmomentum.com, as well as the proprietor of instinctcatering.com. No, that is an actual, it's like there's an actual business anymore. It's not everything is .com. Yes, it's an actual business where she makes actual food, not digital food. Instinct Catering. Chef Michelle Norris, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. That was quite an intro there.
Yes, it was unnecessarily long, but you know, sometimes you got to have fun.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on, Jonathan.
Well, Michelle, thank you for joining us. And could you just in brief tell us a bit about your journey to eating a more whole food, nutrient dense, and at the same time, delicious lifestyle?
Well, it's I've been probably in this lifestyle for about 8 years, almost 9 years. My husband, Keith, started eating this way probably for about a year before I did. My specialty as a chef previously was Italian food. So as you can imagine, I wasn't real happy about it. But he, for probably close to a year, he's not one to like beat you over the head or anything like that, but he kept saying, I really had a lot of problems. I had every kind of conceivable diagnosis you can imagine. I had IBS, I had fibromyalgia, I had, oh gosh, I can't even think of everything that I had. I had chronic fatigue syndrome, you name it, I had it. Every time I ate, I got sick. He kept saying, you know, I really think that you have this celiac thing. I really think you ought to check it out. And one night I made my own pizza dough and my own pasta. I have my own pasta maker. And so, and of course we have kids, and that was our kid's favorite. And so one night, it had been close to a year, and he was of course not partaking of, and this was his favorite too. So, he was not partaking of our dinner. And I said to him, you're like never going to eat my pizza and pasta again, are you? And he said, no, I'm not. And he said, I really honestly believe you have celiac, and I think you need to go get it checked out. And I was like, okay. And then I finally kind of took him seriously. And so I went and I had it checked out. And of course, they don't test the right antibodies. So you don't, so I came back with a negative screen, and my doctor was talking to me, and he's falling asleep while he's talking to me. I kid you not.
Oh, geez.
And he's telling me that he wants to biopsy my colon. And I'm thinking to myself, why in the world would you want to cut into my colon just to find out if why not just remove this from my diet and let's check that out, you know? And so I thought, this is insane. So I went home, told Keith about it, and we just decided, let's remove gluten from my diet. Let's start there, and let's see what happens. And in 3 weeks, I kid you not, everything was gone. And now, see, my family has rheumatoid arthritis, or at least that's the diagnosis. And so I just assumed I had it early. I just, you know, I had swelling in all of my joints and everything. I just assumed that's what I had. It was all gone. None of it was there. I didn't have rheumatoid arthritis. Turns out I did get tested later, and I'm borderline celiac. So, so I kind of came into it in a very not happy way, because I was not happy about it. And so, I don't know how, I know you talk more about real foods and everything. We're paleo, primal. We do have dairy in our diet, raw dairy. So I didn't come into it really happily. I kind of came into it and I was angry that I had to that I had to give up all these foods that I loved to be healthy, but it's what happened. And then I finally realized, it took a good year or so. And then I finally realized, you know what, it's not that bad. It's, I found other things that, like I absolutely love zucchini pasta, like making pasta from zucchini and making spaghetti squash and using that as pasta, and that it's so much healthier. And I don't have that, the food coma afterwards. And I don't have that, that whole, the bloat and everything that you feel after you eat food like that. So that's kind of, in a very, very tiny nutshell, that's my story.
Well, Michelle, what I love about your story is two things. One, when you mentioned about some things being gone, like, they had to be gone. But then if we look at your work and we look at your life, we see that there's also a lot of stuff that isn't at all gone, and that's delicious food. And in fact, you've got something added now where before you would eat something that was, let's call it pasta-like, and it might be enjoyable while you're eating it, but then afterwards it really wasn't. And now you're in a world where you've got things that are also pasta-like, and they're really enjoyable while you're eating them, and you feel really great afterwards. So it's a little bit like having your cake and eating it too, although it's not all full of that sugar and garbage.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And the thing is that, yes, I did. I learned got to learn a bunch of new tricks and a bunch of new things about food. And really, it really tested my limits of creativity as a chef. And so, that was exciting for me, is to be able to get into the kitchen and really start playing with things and really start having fun and just, thinking, okay, if I did this with, some whatever food, anything, it was just like, could I do this and it be similar to that or whatever? And it not replacing things, not like trying to, it's not like trying to replace the junk food, but it's trying to, have some of those comfort foods, because, Italian food is comfort food, and Italian food I was married to an Italian, and my kids are, part Italian, and, that's all part of the family, culture, and part of the family dynamic is food. And so when you start talking about being able to replace some of those things with something healthier, that's really a great thing, actually. Because I think that there are some things that we do in this where we're trying to replace some things in an unhealthy way. And then there's, in my opinion, some of these things can be replaced in a very healthy way and it not be done improperly. Or I don't know how else to say that, but I think that
absolutely.
I think we go overboard with treats and stuff like that. I think some of that gets taken a little bit to the extreme, where we need to scale back on some of the treats, just because something is has the proper whole foods ingredients or paleo friendly ingredients or whatever they may be. Doesn't necessarily mean we should eat them every day. Treats should still be taken as treats, and that kind of thing. So but in my opinion, when you're replacing an entree, a dish like that, and you get to go in the kitchen and you try to replace an entire entree, for me, that's a pretty cool thing. I like playing in the kitchen and trying to replace an entire entree and do it the right way and do it in a very healthy way. So.
Well, Michelle, there's 2 points you made there that I really, really like, and that is sometimes people can see, let's call it constraints, for lack of better terms, as stifling creativity or reducing joy. And you know what? Ask any person who's professionally creative about how constraints can actually prompt creativity. Like, think of just go write something versus go write a haiku.
Right.
When you put structure or when you put constraints, in some ways that can unlock possibilities. Sometimes I do this little experiment with people where I say, okay, name as many things that are white as you can go. And then you say, okay, now name as many things that you find in your refrigerator or freezer that are white, go. And you'll often find that although the set of things in your refrigerator or freezer that are white is much smaller than all the things in the world that are white, you can list them off just as fast because your mind actually says, oh, okay, like I have very clear constraints. I can operate within these. And it can kind of become a fun game to come up with these swaps that still let you have your delicious main dish and not die. So can you tell us a little bit about, as someone who is a gourmand and loved Italian food, what to you were some of just the key swaps you found that enabled you to stay sane while also stay healthy?
Well, probably the key swaps are the, swapping out the vegetable pastas. Because, pasta is a big deal in Italian cuisine. You have, it's just a big deal. I honestly, I'm still haven't found that pizza dough. I've played around and still haven't found that pizza dough that I think that is still healthy and that is still, I think one of the ones that gets close is probably the cauliflower crust pizza dough. But I think those are good, wholesome swaps that really, they test the boundaries of your creativity, and these are really good swaps for, they're healthy and they taste delicious, and you can do a lot of things with them, and they're fun. I mean, I don't know how many people have, like a spiral slicer or whatever, but it's fun to play with that thing. I like playing with it. So I recommend highly everyone get one. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go on my site. I have it on the sidebar of my site on ancestralmomentum.com, and it's on Amazon. You can get them pretty inexpensively, and they're fun. You can make all different kinds of pastas with them. So
absolutely, Michelle. When I think sometimes we undersell, when I say we, I mean just collectively as a culture, not necessarily you and I, but we undersell the fun that can be even, for example, eating a plate of pasta is like, it's one color, it's kind of soggy, versus like if you had this rich diversity of zucchini noodles and some spaghetti squash, and you've got all these different colors and flavors and textures. And the traditional American diet is not one that is full of variety and color. I mean, soda, pizza, pop, hamburger, soda, pizza, pop, hamburger. That's not that is monotonous, and that has a lot of constraints on it. So in some ways, we're lifting constraints, aren't we?
Oh, I totally agree. I completely agree with that. And like you said, the color and I don't know, but if you go through and you start looking at some of these sites that have the great food porn with, all of the good, wholesome, whole foods. Oh, you can't beat that. I mean, give me that any day of the week over any kind of hamburger or, absolutely. That food is not only tastes delicious, but it looks great too.
Yeah. Well, and that for me, Michelle, has been like really of the two, or maybe three, I don't know, of the few high level, just dismissive rebuttals I've heard for eating a more nutrient dense, whole food based diet. There's, well, it takes more time. And that, again, we have answers for that. It takes more money, and it's like, okay, we have answers for that. Then it doesn't taste as good. Like that one, that's just false. Like if you go to any, false. Like, and that's, even if you go to like high end French restaurants, like gourmet cooking is not sugar saturated with a bunch of like hydrogenated blah blah blah. So like of those three, it doesn't taste good is just not at all. Nope.
No. And that one kind of blows me away. No, the one thing that I can say, and what's interesting is that for the thing, okay, the only thing I can say as far as maybe prep, maybe cutting is the, is the time consumption thing here. But there's things that you can do. I strongly recommend anybody that's wanting to eat healthier, I strongly recommend go to your closest, either a school that's close by, usually a community college, a Whole Foods. If you're in Texas, Central Market, they usually will have a knife skills class. I highly recommend anybody take a knife skills class, because when you know how to cut properly, you cut faster. You are you waste less product. But the other thing is too, when you start learning how to cut properly, you want to cut everything. You want to do this. I remember when I took my very first knife skills class, years and years and years ago, I wanted to be in the kitchen cutting everything. And so you want to prep everything, and you'll prep everything ahead. If you prep everything ahead of time, everything's ready to go. I mean, it's simple to throw. That's the one thing I love about this type of food is actually when everything's prepped, it's simple to come together. It doesn't take a lot, really, to make this food taste good. It doesn't take a whole lot. That's the thing. And, Julia Child, her show was an hour long, but really, when you really watched what she did, and sometimes she would have, really long drawn out recipes, but a lot of times she was cooking a lot of food. I mean, and so most of those things were so super simple and such great tasting food. And so, but it was real food. And so this is the thing. There are all different kinds of tricks you can do cook-ups where you cook up on the weekend, you do everything on a Sunday, and you have everything ready for the week. You can prep everything and have everything ready so you can come home super quick and put things together. But this is the thing. You've got to make the choice of whether or not you're worth that time. Whether your body and your health, because you only get one shot at this. When your health is gone, for the most part, when your health is gone, it's gone, and it's hard to get it back. And so you have to make the decision that you're worth that. And, that's a decision only you can make. And so I know for me and for my husband, we're worth that. And the other part of it too is you're going to pay on the other end. You're going to pay going to hospitals, going to doctors, paying for medication, paying for all of that. So you choose, do you want to pay now or do you want to pay then?
Absolutely. And once I love your point about once it's gone, it's gone. I mean, you can use an analogy of knocking over a glass of water, right? Like once the water has spilled, you can get a rag and wipe it up and try to like strain the rag back into the cup. And like you can get some water back into the cup, but once you have diabetes, the water's kind of out of the cup already. And that's not to say lose hope, not by a long shot. But I think so often, Michelle, we equate diseases that are so diet related as being somehow unique from, for example, like lung cancer, which is caused by smoking. Like if you smoke, you get lung cancer. Once you have lung cancer, you're kind of like this. That's why you don't want to smoke, because it will give you lung cancer, and then you can't just take a pill that makes lung cancer go away. Insulin doesn't make diabetes go away. It just prevents it from killing you right now. Right. So like the water's out of the cup. So I love your point about like you got to make that time now, or you're just saying I'll make time later once I'm already sick.
Yeah. And the thing is that it's not going to be any more convenient then. It's going to be way less convenient, and it's going to be not very much fun.
Yeah, well, and then the water, and then your floor's all wet because the water already spilled out of the cup, and the cup's cracked on the side, and you're like, well, damn it.
Exactly. And I can say the whole idea, my thought process is, and maybe this is my point of view because I love to cook and everything, but I would rather spend that time in the kitchen enjoying myself, making food that I enjoy and that's going to make me healthy now, spending that time, than spending my time in doctors' offices, sitting and waiting for doctors that have triple and quadruple booked themselves, because that's only going to get worse. And then sitting in hospitals waiting for, whatever, God knows how much worse that's going to get, because that's going to get worse. And then, then trifling with insurance and all of that kind of stuff. And if you're lucky enough to have insurance. And then of course, if you're not paying the fees because you don't have the insurance, and then you're paying you need to start thinking about all this. This is all going to add up.
Absolutely.
And it's going to cost way more than the food
absolutely
costs now.
And you can spend some time now and smile during that time spent and smile afterwards, or you can spend a lot of time in the future and you'll be frowning throughout because it's not an enjoyable process, right?
No, not to mention God only knows what kind of things you're going to have to be put through once you finally do get in to see the doctor. Tests and, every kind of conceivable horrible thing I can imagine having to deal with as far as a doctor is concerned. That's just stress tests and you name it, and drinking nasty, contrasts and that all of that whole idea. No thanks. I would rather pay now and take my time putting together my food and making sure that I stay healthy so that I don't have to deal with that on that end.
Absolutely. And it's such a uplifting thing. It's instead of drinking contrasts and taking all these pills, you can just eat some freaking glorious spaghetti squash and some delightful, meatballs that are not processed but are made at home with your all natural pasta sauce. I mean, there's all kinds of it's not like we're talking about take this pill now versus that pill later. We're talking about eat some yummy food now so you don't have to take that pill later.
Right.
Which I'm all about.
Right, exactly. Take the time now to make yourself healthy, keep yourself healthy. The other thing is think of all the things that you could be doing then when you're sitting in a doctor's office. What all could you be doing then? You might have grandchildren that you'd rather be spending time with. Instead, you're sitting in a doctor's office. Or you might have, a trip that you'd like to go on then. Instead, you're spending money at a doctor's office instead of going to Greece or going to Japan or to France or whatever. And instead, you get to spend it at a doctor's office.
Spend it in the kitchen now instead.
Right. Yeah. That's my motto.
I love it, Michelle. Well, what's coming up next for you? Obviously, you're doing your great work with Paleo FX. You've got your Instinct Catering business rocking and rolling, and over at ancestralmomentum.com. What's next?
Well, we have Paleo FX is going on the road, of course. We let people know that we will be heading to Denver next. But our big Paleo FX show is staying in Austin. It'll be in Austin every spring. That's the plan. So I think a lot of people misunderstood us and thought that, okay, we were going to have the Paleo FX show in Denver next year. That's Denver is probably going to be towards the end of this year. So we are, that's coming up, and then we're going to be probably moving rolling our site, Ancestral Momentum, into the Paleo FX site probably soon. And, we have a lot of things, going on. So keep your eyes on our Paleo FX site and our Facebook page. And we've just got a lot going on, and our Twitter, my Twitter's, at Eclectic Kitchen, and Keith's is at Keith Norris. So we do a lot of tweeting, and then we have our at Paleo FX Twitter as well. So we have a whole lot coming up and a whole lot going on. So
I love it. Well, I appreciate all the work you do to help people understand that eating a diet that supports your mind and body can also support your taste buds simultaneously. So, so keep up the great work, Michelle. I really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. I enjoy it for sure.
Well, again, her name is Michelle Norris. You can learn more about her over at ancestralmomentum.com. She runs Instinct Catering, and she's also the co-founder of the wildly successful conference Paleo FX. Michelle, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I appreciate you having me on.
My pleasure. Well, and listeners, I hope you enjoyed today's show as much as I did. And remember, this week and every week afterwards, don't starve yourself, and you don't need to spend hours on the treadmill. Just eat smarter, exercise smarter, and live better. Talk with you soon.
Wait, don't stop listening yet. If you like the podcast and if there's other ways we can help you, please join us in the Smarter Science of Slim support group, which is freely available at the Smarter Science of Slim website, smarterscienceofslim.com. There you'll find all kinds of free recipes and success stories and just all kinds of fun stuff, like how to help your kids go sane and just great community content.
And just one last thing before you go, if you wouldn't mind heading over to iTunes and up onto Amazon.com and leaving us a review, and then going over to Facebook and liking us, we would hugely appreciate it.